Yeah, just don't. I'm answering the title. That's it. That's the video. Just don't do it. But you clicked on the video, so I'll assume that you're like being held captive by an AI that wants you to write a scientific paper using it. And I will tell you how. I'll give you my tips, the magic tips to writing a paper with ChatGPT. But first, you're going to have to listen to me tell you why you shouldn't. Or, I mean, you could skip past me, but please don't. So, when you're using ChatGPT or a similar like generative AI for work, you have two questions that you need to ask yourself. First, should you? And the answer that we've already discussed is no, don't. And the second is how can you? So, like, the ethical minefield alone in the should question kind of makes it a no for me. So, for those of you who don't know, generative AI requires lots and lots of data to be functional. And in many cases, you don't even consent to your data being used for it, not to mention the sheer computing power required around the world for everyone using it. It's not a particularly green technology. But in academic settings, you also have the risk of being caught for using your little prediction platform. So lots of universities, if you're a student, have policies just straight up against the use of generative AI in coursework. And then if you're an academic, plenty of journals have policies also against generative AI or only allow it if you say that you use it or to like fix up your language, or they prohibit the use of making images with genAI. And depending on when you generate the text, newer models of ChatGPT and occasional updates may or may not be experimenting with these like invisible Unicode characters or watermarks basically in the text, which makes the text super identifiable as coming from ChatGPT. So not only can you get caught, it's pretty easy actually to be caught with those. And I say may or may not to like confuse you or anything, but because literally this month, OpenAI both seemed to start and stop that practice without telling customers. So they may or may not be doing that. And paper retraction due to undisclosed AI use is a thing, my friends. So the biggest stance I've seen journals take is against generated AI images. And this is because they tend to be A, so obvious, and B, such nonsense. But it's so identifiable and you might have to retract your papers. So yeah, I would recommend not using it. Also, a huge risk of using ChatGPT is that it'll just straight up hallucinate sources that don't exist. Because it can't actually think. The hallucinations are just what it always does. They just occasionally happen to align with reality. So let me repeat that in case you've fallen asleep since the beginning of the video, I guess. Citations generated by ChatGPT are not real. This is going to be the most useful thing I'm going to tell you. The risk of using AI is that you generate completely fake citations because ChatGPT does not know how to use Google Scholar. So one final time for everyone at the back. Citations from ChatGPT are almost always fake. Do not use them. Be wary of them. Research them well. If they are real, they might have nothing to do with what it says they do. So be careful. Don't use citations from ChatGPT. Also, in terms of other risks of using ChatGPT, data security is like non-existent. So where does the data go? I don't know, but someone does. And in that case, you might not want to put secure data in there because I don't know how secure it is and neither do you. And we don't want to find that out the hard way. So you've listened to all that and you still want to use ChatGPT for your scientific writing. And I guess it probably did really kidnap you, so that sucks. But here's the serious part and why I made this whole video about scientific writing in particular. Academia can feel fast-paced and it's a highly competitive environment. You're under a lot of pressure to produce good writing fast, and your peers are doing the same. It can feel like you're simply less competitive than your peers if they're using AI and you're not, because it can seem like you're working at a slower pace than them. And here's the thing, that's a pretty valid concern. So, confession time, I actually didn't use AI during grad school or undergrad. And it was fairly new at the time because ChatGPT didn't come out until late 2022. And I was working in a pretty niche area that has the tendency to confuse humans. And I just thought it was like a glorified synonym generator. And I already had Google, so I just didn't bother with it. But when my peers did use it, it felt like I was falling behind just by doing my work at a human's pace. And I did feel frustrated about it. And there are plenty of other YouTube videos calling ChatGPT a hidden edge for researchers, so you might be right to be worried. So we're in a bit of a catch-22, aren't we? We can't use genAI because of the ethical issues with it and the risk of producing unhelpful slop instead of meaningful, genuine work. But we also can't not use genAI because many of our peers are, which seemingly enables them to work much faster than us. But as many coders specifically are aware, depending on the project, the time that you save using ChatGPT in the generation part is the time that you lose during editing, troubleshooting, and testing. Because AI can't actually think. It just predicts what will come next using a lot of statistics. So personally, that's why I'd rather stick with my own methods, which have worked well for me, rather than serve people a pie of like steaming AI slop. But this video is called How to Use ChatGPT for Scientific Writing, or something along those lines. I can't read my future self's mind. And I did promise to tell you some tips. So if I were to put all of that aside, how would I use ChatGPT for scientific writing? And the answer, aside from don't, is to use it as it's intended, as a powerful text prediction tool. So to talk about this little trick, which is not actually a trick, I'll use an assignment from October 2021, which is way before ChatGPT was released. So there's definitely no genAI in any part of like the prompt or the writing itself. And the writing itself was about, if you're interested, a question about what would happen developmentally to 100 children if they were left alone on an island for 5 years. So I learned a lot in my neuroscience degree. So the trick to get an actual use out of ChatGPT is for me to put an almost finished paragraph of yours and then ask for the final sentence. Or, put in 3 paragraphs and ask what the topic of the 4th should be. Put in the final 4 sentences of a paragraph and ask what the first sentence should be. Put in 2 paragraphs that need a transition sentence between them and ask what it should be. So I'll give you an example. I put a paragraph into ChatGPT and asked it to write a final sentence for that paragraph. Now, I had already written a final sentence because, like I said, I turned in this assignment way before ChatGPT was even released. So I wrote, on the island, this may be even more difficult than a laboratory setting because the children are not presented with a set of possible materials. They must decide what to use on their own. ChatGPT wrote, thus, while young children may recognize a problem, their ability to independently generate effective solutions, especially for complex, unfamiliar tasks like tool innovation, is extremely limited. Now, you can tell some differences between my answer and ChatGPT's. It didn't quite nail my tone that I had been using for the rest of the paragraph. It also used em dashes, and those are extremely indicative of ChatGPT because no human knows how to use an em dash unless you're like really into grammar. I'm not. But overall, it did actually make a good sentence and probably a better concluding sentence for that paragraph than what I had written. So that actually wasn't too bad, ethical issues aside. I would also say that ChatGPT can genuinely be used for summaries. Not writing a whole abstract for you unless you like living on the edge, but you can pop a piece of your writing into ChatGPT and ask for a summary to see if you emphasize your main points clearly enough. Because if ChatGPT can't figure out what you're writing about, I think it'll be almost equally as hard for a human to figure it out. So we did manage to squeeze a good use out of ChatGPT, but that good use still relies a lot on your own writing. So my overall advice is really just to write the damn thing. And if you have to use generative AI, remember what it is at its core. It can't think, it has no reasoning skills, and it predicts likely text based on previous text. So if you want something meaningful and a similar style to your own out of it, you have to input a good amount of your own writing anyway. Basically, if you absolutely have to use ChatGPT, there's no way around it. My best advice is to use it for pain points of your writing, like title ideas, individual sentences from a couple paragraphs, or evaluating the overall message of your text. But those are probably things that you're good at doing anyway. Because the secret here is that you have a natural edge over ChatGPT. You aren't just a prediction machine, probably, and you can think, probably, and you can produce a good piece of writing by thinking about what purpose a word, a sentence, and a paragraph are supposed to serve, and then making sure that they serve that purpose. Good writers spend a lot of time editing their work and thinking about their audience. ChatGPT does neither of these things, but you can do both. So what are my final thoughts in this short rant? I still think that the best way to use ChatGPT is mostly to not use it. Of course, I understand that if English is your second language and you're using it for like grammar help before giving it to a colleague or something to edit, I understand those uses, and I understand that there will probably be a place for ChatGPT in our reality. But I also think that we are capable of producing good work when we want to, and giving things the time that they need and allowing us to work at a human pace is so important. So here's my promise to you guys. As a creator, I will not make ChatGPT or AI generated slop. If you watch my videos, they will be made by a human. And I'd like to think that if I read you guys' research papers, they would also be written mostly by a human, because that's what scientific communication is. It's communicating your ideas, not the ones that come from ChatGPT. So yeah, you're here on this video for my sparkling personality and witty jokes. And by the way, there are like 100 of you subscribed to me now, which is insane because I've only been doing this for a month and a half. So thank you guys so much for being here. I am so thankful for you. But yeah, you're here for my sparkling personality, not ChatGPT. And I am reading y'all's papers for your sparkling writing and your skills and your knowledge, not ChatGPT's. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you got something out of this. You can either use ChatGPT or not at your own discretion, but just keep in mind that you as a human are capable of doing a lot more than ChatGPT because you can think. So have a good one, stay curious, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.